Good morning, everyone. I, Dr. Vinita Tuli, welcome you all to the webinar and pledge taking ceremony on the occasion of the observance of the Vigilance Awareness Week, Satarkta Jagrukta Saptaha, from 27th to 2nd November 2020, organized under the aegis of the IQAC in collaboration with the NSS of Atmaram Sanatan Dharm College. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome our distinguished guest, Mr. Neeraj Prasad, who is a Commissioner, GST Investigation, Government of India. Sir, we are really honored to have you with us and as a speaker on the occasion of the observance of the Vigilance Awareness Week. I'm glad that you took out time from your busy schedule for us and our students to enlighten us as to how important it is to be accountable in public life. We also have with us our principal, Dr. Gyantosh Kumar Jha, amidst us. I welcome him and invite him to say a few words, welcome the guest, and take the pledge on integrity pledge on the occasion of the observance of the Vigilance Awareness Week 2020.
Thank you, Vinita. Honorable Sri Neeraj Prasad ji, today's guest, Dr. Vinita Tuli, Convener Webinar Committee, Mr. Deepankar, Convener for the observance of Vigilance Awareness Week, Dr. Anjani Singh, NSS Convener, colleagues, and my dear student. On behalf of Atmaram Sanatan Dharm College, it's a great pleasure and honor for me to welcome Sri Neeraj Prasad ji in this webinar on the occasion of observance of Vigilance Awareness Week. As we all know that government has directed us to celebrate and for the observance of Vigilance Awareness Week on the theme of Satark Bharat, Samriddh Bharat, Vigilant India and Prosperous India. And we are fortunate that Sri Neeraj Prasad ji has given his valuable time for us to deliver a lecture, because earlier he was serving in Vigilance Department of Custom and Excise, and he has a very huge experience of different cases in his service life. So I think he will explain in better manner. So I am thankful to him that he took out his valuable time for us, and definitely we all will be going to experience a great thought with him. Thank you, sir, for giving your time. Now I would like to read the integrity pledge for citizens on this occasion. So I would first read, and wherever you are, you can repeat it with me. I believe that corruption has been one of the major obstacles to economic, political, and social progress of our country. I believe that all stakeholders such as government, citizens, and private sector need to work together to eradicate corruption. I realize that every citizen should be vigilant and commit to highest standards of honesty and integrity at all times and support the fight against corruption. I therefore pledge to follow probity and rule of law in all walks of life, to neither take nor offer bribe, to perform all tasks in an honest and transparent manner, to act in public interest, to lead by example, exhibiting integrity in personal behavior, to report any incident of corruption to the appropriate agency. I think, thank you so much. I think we all have taken this place, uh, on the observance of Vigilance Awareness Week, and it was scheduled for today. Once again, I welcome Neeraj in this webinar, and thank you all. Thank you. Over to Vinita.
Thank you, sir. The Central Vigilance Commission, as the apex anti-corruption body of the country, endeavors to promote integrity, transparency, and accountability in public life. Observance of Vigilance Awareness Week every year is a part of multi-pronged approach of the Commission, wherein one of the strategies is to encourage all stakeholders to collectively participate in the preventive vigilance measures and fight against corruption, raise public awareness regarding the existence and gravity of and the threat posed by corruption. The Central Vigilance Commission has decided that this year the Vigilance Awareness Week would be observed from 27th October to 2nd November 2020 with the theme Satark Bharat, Samridh Bharat, Vigilant India, Prosperous India. Mr. Neeraj Prasad ji, IRS from 1993 batch, serving as Commissioner GST Investigation, Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, Ministry of Finance, Government of India. He has keen interest in the field of training and development and is a regular guest faculty and speaker at the National Customs Training Academy, IIFT, ISAI, FICCI, etc. He is also a recipient of President's Distinguished Service Medal granted to IRS officers. I welcome you again, sir, and invite you to speak on the theme of the Vigilance Awareness Week, Satark Bharat, Samridh Bharat. सर आपका म्यूट है, अनम्यूट कर लो सर.
Now, am I audible now?
Yes sir, yes sir. Fine.
So I'll start once over again. Thank you, Gyantos, and thank you, Professor Bali, for inviting me to deliver this lecture. I'll get to the theme straight away. In fact, Vigilance Awareness Week is a common and recurring phenomena which we are supposed to observe in every government organization year on year. But then the significance of probity and integrity is not restricted to this week alone. It is something which we are expected to imbibe in our functioning, and it is to be understood in a very positive frame of mind and in a positive framework. So I'll be sharing my experience as a taxman and what we have observed when we handle assignments related to vigilance. And I would like to highlight on certain key aspects which have universal applicability in building a culture of integrity. We all serve in different kind of organizations, and the challenges of educational institutions or higher institutions of higher learning like colleges and universities is very, very different from the challenges which we face in the tax department. And but then, having said that, there are some common principles which are to be adhered to when we talk about building a culture of integrity, and all of it has a resonance and consonance to the current theme of Vigilance Awareness Week, that is Samridh Bharat and so on. So what are those principles which I would be highlighting? I'll be narrating in a sequential manner, one by one. Now, at one level, there is not much of flexibility when you're supposed to enforce and observe rules and guidelines. They are fairly codified. For example, in the case of government employees, we have CCA, CCS conduct rules, we have Prevention of Corruption Act, and so on. And under the CCA conduct rules, There are very specific guidelines of do's and don'ts under different kind of circumstances. I'm very sure there would be similar guidelines applicable to universities and institutions of higher learning as well, which are to be adhered to in letter and spirit. There is not much scope to deviate from whatever has been prescribed and whatever has been laid down. But then, how to meet the challenge of building a culture of integrity, which leads to overall probity in our day-to-day life and eventually to a more prosperous country and society. One of the most key aspects of having a culture of integrity is transparency. Now, transparency is to be understood at various dimensions or in various dimensions and at various levels. We are all aware of Right to Information Act. Under the Right to Information Act, there are some mandatory disclosures which are required to be made. Now, again, those mandatory disclosures are non-negotiable. If it has to be made, it has to be made. But then one can always travel an extra mile or an extra step from the requirements of mandatory disclosure, and that is voluntary disclosure. There are many aspects of day-to-day functioning which, if it is available in public domain and which it is available for the stakeholders to read and understand, the level of trust or the level of faith in the process improves or it gets enhanced. Eventually, integrity is all about my own conduct, and it's also about conduct of others and also about the institutional conduct as a whole. The principle of integrity works only when we have trust in each other. When we have trust in each other, when we have trust in the process, when we have trust in the institution, and so on. Otherwise, despite whatever norms and regulations which are there, which are prescribed, they'll all see a big breakdown, and it happens from time to time. It happens in every institution, but then it is to be prevented. And more than that, it is to be enhanced so that a general message goes and with conviction that yes, this is the right manner and this is the right way of functioning. So, transparency is one aspect. Within transparency, the aspect of mandatory disclosure is there, and then the aspect of voluntary disclosure is there. If a general survey would be done of educational institutions working within the ambit of, say, government university, even therein one would find that different institutions are adhering to different levels or standards of transparency. So this is something to be thought about, and this is something to be imbibed in our day-to-day function. Next comes the very crucial role of leadership. It is leadership which sends the message that yes, uh, the day-to-day functioning and day-to-day administration and decisions are being taken in a fair and transparent manner. Now, very often, let's say in our department, there are a lot of decisions which are mandated as per law. That is, it is assigned to a certain level of hierarchy that only a commissioner can take that decision, or that decision is to be taken at the level of assistant commissioner or deputy commissioner. So that is all fine. Those are your statutory powers, which is to be exercised only by you. Similarly, in the case of educational institutions also, there would be a lot of statutory powers vested in different authorities, principal downwards, and so on. But then this statutory authority does not mean arrogance of decision making. It is fine. I'm supposed to take the decision. I'm having the mandatory authority to take the decision. But decisions should be taken in a transparent manner, in a manner in which it is properly rationalized, and maybe this is my experience which has got filtered down from from my days in vigilance, that if it is rationalized amongst the stakeholders, then the acceptability of the decision gets vastly increased, vastly, I would say, improved. Now, There are a lot of day-to-day decision. In every such decision, consensus building is not required, and every such decision does not involve some or other aspect of question mark with respect to integrity or functioning of the institution. But then there are certain important and crucial decisions. For example, in the case of our department, there is something called annual general transfer. Now, that is something which is very keenly observed by all the stakeholders, whether the transfer policy is being adopted in a fair and transparent manner. Everyone wishes to see that this is not the situation that you show me the man, I'll show you the rule. Now, therein the role of transparent decision making comes in. Now, these calls are to be taken by the authorities who have been vested with the power of transfer making. But then that does not mean that there should not be sufficient disclosure that on what basis or on basis of what principles such decisions were taken. Now, these kind of situations would be arising in institutions of higher learning as well. There are circumstances where you are required to take decisions which is not in consonance to norms or regulations. Now, nowhere the vigilance guidelines says that you can't take decision as per the contingency of the situation or circumstances, and you have to adhere to the guidelines come what may. That is certainly not what the message the Apex organization of Vigilance CVC wishes to send. All it wishes to send, from what I have observed, is that you can take a decision which is exceptional in nature, which maybe is not as per the laid down guidelines. But then when you are carving out such a decision, you have to very thoroughly rationalize it. And when you take such a decision, the authorities, someone who is above you, someone who has the right to monitor you, someone who has the right to regulate you, someone who has the right to administer you, he has to be in the loop. It cannot be, or it should not be usually presented as a fait accompli to him that that situation may also arise. That okay, the circumstances, contingency of the circumstances decided or necessitated a situation wherein an urgent decision was required to be taken. Now, the role of leadership is also encouraging subordinates or the team members. In fact, the correct word is team members, not subordinate, to perform the mandated role which has been assigned to them. This is something which has to flow from the leadership itself. Now, when I'm talking about integrity and so on, I'm mostly functioning on the administrative role, and it essentially pertains to teachers, principals, and so on. But in my later part of the discussion, I'll also be focusing on certain aspect on how this message can be devolved amongst the student community also. That the right way to function is the best way to prosper also. When we are functioning in an institutional arrangement, and when we are constrained, or when we are rather supposed to function within the bounds of certain norms and regulations, we are bound to observe systemic flaws. Systemic flaws, like in our case, we handle refunds, taxpayer refund. I'm just highlighting an example so that it can be associated with something similar of your institution. Now, if the refund process is not expeditious, it is not as per timelines, if it is not as per the principle of first in, first out, then there is a problem. Every decision cannot be justified on the grounds of discretion. When there are certain routine things to be addressed, it has to be taken care in a very systematic manner. And if there are systemic flaws, if there are systemic gaps which nobody has taken care of, then every now and then we can come up with detailed systemic guidelines, which is an improvement over the existing scenario. in this era of COVID-19, when educational institution would have been handling admission entirely through the online process, lot of observations would have been made by personnels handling the admission process, that in the sense that they would have felt that guidelines are not adequately addressing the circumstances which they are facing. So nothing stops any institution from suggesting or recommending a systemic improvement in functioning of a certain aspect. When I was there in the Directorate General of Vigilance, we were in fact mandatorily required to focus on some systemic flaws, some systemic gaps, and come up with specific recommendations for the CVC to appreciate and approve. In fact, CVC has advisory role only. CVC always wanted us to work in such a manner that we address our systemic gaps and we reduce the opportunity for discretionary functioning in a routine circumstances and reduce the circumstances of uh, a situation wherein an opaque decision is taken and that leads to a lot of questioning. Now, interwoven in the whole process is the aspect of complaints. Uh, all of us who are decision makers in various capacity, on one hand, if we wish to take a accelerated call on certain aspect, we'll face roadblocks, we'll face resistance, we'll face questions from people who are not sufficiently aware. There is a different solution to all these circumstances, but then we need to have a very robust complaint handling policy. The complaint handling policy is nothing but a collation of the guidelines which already exists. Many a times the awareness itself is not there. Like, what are we supposed to do with anonymous complaint? Now, if there is an anonymous complaint, the DOPT guideline says that you're not supposed to initiate action upon it. But at the same time, anonymous complaint has a lot of verifiable facts also. So maybe fine, a vigilance action would not be initiated, but then it can be taken as a red flag for something to be watched and something to be course corrected and so on. So a collated complaint handling policy is also very useful for the administration, and the availability of the same also helps the process of decision making, and it also deters or discourages those person who are willful complainant, because if you're a willful complainant, then there has to be consequences to it also. And what are those consequences? It has to be properly codified as per the instructions in the complaint handling policy itself. So all of this is not an end in itself, whatever I am saying or suggesting. All of it is a means for a more transparent and, for that matter, a more healthy working environment, which enables us meet the organizational objectives. Many a times in the process of decision making, we have a feeling that if we take a conservative decision, that is the right approach. Like in our case, what is a conservative decision? A pro-revenue decision, whatever which favors the interest of the government. But again, that is not expected. We are supposed to balance the interest of taxpayer as well as the government, the legitimate interest. Now, just because we see a very serious issue before us, we wish to chicken out from that situation and we wish to avoid taking decision, that is also not something which is expected from the top leadership. So, I'm very sure that all those who are listening to whatever I am saying or suggesting, uh, nothing would be new to them. But then these are the certain aspects, the nitty gritty, which helps in having us or in building a more transparent working environment. So I'll quickly come down to students. Students, as the cliche goes, which is a fact also are the future of the nation. And they are the next generation decision makers in various capacity in the private sector, in government, and so on and so forth. And they are also a very keen observer or an observant of what exactly is going on, whether things are falling apart, whether we have the right regulation in place, whether we have any regulation at all or not. When they would be reading and when we also read about huge banking scams, our faith in the system is shaken. We feel as if nothing is working and everything is there for pilferage and there to be looted, which is certainly not the case. We have frameworks, but then such instances they point out towards strengthening of the framework. No such guidelines or framework is cast in stone. These are all living guidelines. They all need to be adapted with changing times, with changing requirements. So I don't know whether it is a practice in colleges or institutions or not, but then it would be a good idea, let's say in the case of economics or commerce faculty or classes, to understand why a certain banking failure, for instance, happened, why a certain scam like Sahara happened, or why something like a collective investment scheme like PACL or something like Sarda in West Bengal, a chit fund scam happened. And because when such scams happen, it corrupts and corrodes the system also. A lot of officers got ensnared in the scam. A lot of politicians were also named. Many of the investigations are ongoing. Now, we are certainly not supposed to derive the message that nothing works and everything is collapsing. The message to be derived is that, okay, fine, why it happened, and then what next? How to avoid such situations? Ideation, excuse me. Ideation is not the responsibility of bureaucracy or political leadership alone. The academic community also has a major role to play. And when students are engaged in such discussion, they'll also see a ray of hope that, okay, fine, this is how the regulatory mechanism is supposed to be strengthened. This is how public money is supposed to be protected. And this is how welfare objective of the government and of the society is to be promoted. Again, it's not only about commerce and economics. One of the most raging issues of the current time is inequality. Now, if I'm talking in general terms now, if there is a perceived inequitous treatment in the society with respect to opportunities, again, faith in the system, faith in the rules, faith in the norms, they get reduced. And then it encourages a lone ranger kind of an approach that every man to himself and whatever he can uh, garner, whatever he can snatch, whatever he can loot, it's up to him. Now, again, that's not the situation or the circumstances which we are looking to. We are looking to a situation where the gains are available in a gains of the society, or the resources of the society are available in an equitable manner. Now, these are deep-rooted concepts, but then uh, some beginning has to be made somewhere, and it would be there also, I'm very sure, and it has to be connected with the concept of integrity and fair play. Now, this is how we build a level of we are what sense a student would make of CCA and CCA Conduct Rule or Prevention of Corruption Act. Maybe it will add to his knowledge. But then he is more interested, and I perceive he would be more interested, he or she would be more interested in the philosophical underpinnings of why this is happening at all and how it can be prevented or how it can be reduced. So once in a while, organizing seminars by learned people. There are no dearth of such intellectuals in our society. Is a good idea. It will help students generate ideas of their own. It will help students think and ideate, and it will help students have faith in the overall functioning of the institutions. Now I can go on and on, but then at this point I'll stop. And if there are few questions, I'll take that, and then I would like to sign off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? You can write in the chat box. Any questions? Ravinder, please see. There's one.
Let me check, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am. It's a message by Anjani sir to write questions in the chat box.
Okay, okay.
So no issues. This was not a Q&A session. This is more of an ideation session. And all of us, we have a view on integrity, and we have a view on how institutions should function. We are supposed to reinforce our positive thoughts and take it towards a situation where organizational goals are met and the goals of the country is met eventually. So thank you.
Thank
And
you. Thank you, sir, for sharing and enlightening us with your experiences as a taxman. We learned a lot from these experiences, and you co-created them with the institution and for students as well. And you created awareness among students regarding this. I would also like to thank our principal, Dr. Gyantosh Kumar Jha, for giving his positive guidance always. I would also like to thank the committee constituted for observing the Vigilance Awareness Week, headed by Mr. Deepankar. Also the NSS, the National Service Scheme, Nimbus, the English Debating Society, and Vedanta, the Hindi Debating Society, for holding debates, competitions, and organizing lectures throughout the week. Thank you, sir, for the enlightening lecture that you have given us.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.